Hello.
Big Liz.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Thank you.
So before we start this interview, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me this interview and giving me some of your time out your day to do this interview. I appreciate it a lot. I grew up watching you when I was a kid, so thank you so much for giving me this interview.
I appreciate the love, man. Thank you. I receive it with open arms.
So for the people that don't know who Big Liz is a legend. If you grew up in the 90s, you should already know who Big Liz is. Her resume is insane. She got a crazy resume. Um, but for the newer generation that follows me, that's probably not familiar with your work, Big Liz, can you give them some insight and tell them some of your resume so they can know how important you is to the culture?
Absolutely. Well, I started in this business as a dancer. For those of you who have seen maybe Michael Jackson, Remember the Time, Whitney Houston, I'm Every Woman, Around the Way Girl, LL Cool J, Bobby Brown, Mary J. Blige, her first album, Real Love and You Remind Me, I've danced and choreographed for all of these people. And then Rap City happened, came into my life, and I was the only female host to host Rap City from 93 to about 2000, 2001. And then dipped into radio, started off in New York at Hot 97, and then been out here in L.A. doing radio ever since. And it's been on stations from Sirius Satellite to, the classic 92.3 The Beat, 100.3 The Beat, and so forth. And now I'm just putting on my producer hat and my director's hat and trying to create other projects. So that's my life.
So what do you have coming up? Like what projects you have coming up now that you're working on?
Well, first let me also remind them, too, if you ever see that girl dancing on the beginning of Queen Latifah's show, Living Single, that's me as well. Right now I'm working on a dance documentary, something that is going to mirror 20 Feet from Stardom and kind of just highlight those of us who have, been culture creators of the 90s and hip-hop in general, and especially in the dance genre, which would include myself and Josie and Tish and maybe Tina Landon and a couple of other people. I am been taking a lot of meetings. You've got to create your own content, and I've said it 1,000 times. It's a new day, and whether it lives on YouTube or Netflix, I'm in pitch mode, so I'm taking a whole lot of meetings so that I can get the same kind of deal that Carson Daly has or that Ryan Seacrest has or that Sway has, and I'm not just some chick standing there holding the mic. I've been in this too long, and I need those deals, and I need those numbers, and I need those credits to reflect what my contribution has been to the culture so far. So that's really the mission that I'm on to.
Absolutely. Your contribution, man, for the culture has been, legendary. Your resume is insane, man. I was looking at your resume yesterday and I was like, wow, it's wow, it's a legendary resume, man. You definitely contributed a lot to the culture.
Well, I appreciate that. All I am is a girl from Queens who all I wanted to do was dance. I went to college on a full gymnastics scholarship. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize about me is that I actually was a real gymnast. And, everybody's like, who's the big girl doing backflips? And that's kind of how the name came about once I got in the industry is because a 5'6", 150-pound girl should not be able to do double backs and double twists and vaulting and balance beam and all that stuff. And, I'm just the dream keeps evolving into other things, as the world turns. And so whether it's, again, wearing a producer hat or a director's hat or just creating content that just, lives and I'm in the cut and I don't have to be on air but still wanting to be on air. And, there's a Broadway musical I would love to be able to do even though I don't sing. So I'm not a triple threat in that area. But as far as radio and TV and acting, and dancing, I can live in that world. So I'm just trying to, stretch myself in this new day and age, at this new age that I'm at, this whole thing. But, it's been a blessing to have been a voice of hip-hop, to have been able to bring some of people's first interviews to hip-hop, whether it was, Outkast or, Lil Half Dead or, Razkaz or whoever, it's been a blessing. So.
Absolutely. Before I ask you about Tupac and your friendship with Tupac and your experiences with Tupac, I just want to say I had no idea that was you dancing at the beginning of Living Single. I never knew that until yesterday.
It's me. Anybody who's interested in kind of looking at my reel of dance work, you can find me on YouTube or www.lesliesegar.com. That's LeslieSegar.com, and my video reels and stuff are up there. And even all of my footage isn't there, but people forget and that they've been watching me for years and years and years, and then they realize, wait, what? Oh, snap, that is you. But that happens with a lot of actors who've been in the game, since the age of 10. Once you blow up, and it takes only one project to blow up, they start re-airing the commercials you did when you were 10, the movie you did when you were 15, and all that other stuff. And then you're like, oh, snap, I've been seeing this person all along. But that one project changes everything.
So let's get right into it. When did you and Tupac become friends? Because a few days ago, I came across a photo of you and Tupac hanging out, and I thought that was dope because I didn't even know you and Tupac was friends. So when I seen that picture, that's when I decided to reach out to you for an interview. So what's the backstory on that? When did you and Tupac become friends?
I probably met Tupac. It had to be about 90, maybe 5, maybe 96. And we were shooting some Rap City stuff in a club. And, I had been around as a dancer and a choreographer, so I was cool with, the E40 and everybody else and some of the cats on the West Coast, and would always see Tupac hanging around. And, of course, me having the affinity for other dancers and him, dancing with Humpty Up and all of those crew, that whole Digital Underground crew. We all kind of had that self-realization, yo, you that girl, yo, you that dude. So we'd be in the club just kind of like kicking back, talking, and then once he started to blow up as an artist, I would end up having to interview him a lot more because of Rap City. But we always had that relationship as a dancer, which is a bond that, from across the room, when two like minds meet or are connected in another way, you just kind of have that quiet bond. And so we just kind of became friends in that sense. And, later down the road, it's like he was my spades partner. We'd be in a cut just talking about life and industry bullshit and politics and all of that stuff. And just what people don't know about him, and maybe they do now, is how absolutely brilliant and wise he is beyond his years. He's somebody who sits back and pays attention. He listens. He doesn't just hear, but he listens. He absorbs. He thinks before he talks. He reads. So he's so educated. I think what happened with Tupac is that a lot of him being so handsome got, what's the word I'm looking for, overshadowed maybe by his intelligence, that he always felt like he needed to prove himself, as a true lyricist or a gangster or whatever it is on wax. And once he got that opportunity to do so, because people tend to think that artistic people sometimes can be weak. And when you're rolling with, heavy hitters and gun toters and all that other stuff, you got to be able to show up at the same time, with your street cred. And I think there was that fine line. He kind of felt like he had to prove himself on a street level. And even though he was beyond his years on an academic and, educational, like he was a man's man, like for real,
The funny thing about that is, I heard an interview from LL Cool J he did on Drink Champs, and he pretty much echoed the same thing you just said, that because he said he had the same issue, and he actually brought up Tupac, and he said that
hip hop is a complex thing, man. I mean, at the end of the day, like, if you're a decent looking fella, you gotta damn near kill yourself to be accepted by dudes. You know what I mean?
By dudes.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the bitches
there.
fuck with you.
I mean, look at Pac. I mean, was a handsome dude, but look what he had to do in order for guys to accept him.
Yeah, but I believe that, because we're so used to it being the other way around, whether it's Halle Berry, Jane Kennedy, or whoever, or Pam Grier, where people just look at your physicality first, and, yeah, sure, sex sells and all this other stuff, but you forget what's on the inside, or nobody wants to pay attention to what's on the inside, and you have to feel like you have to work that much harder for your artistry to be heard, for your artistry to be respected, for your street cred to be, respected as well. And, even when you look at Method Man is fine to most women, but I believe he, dumbs down that handsome side of him just so that, he has his woo credibility. And he's gifted and he's talented, and all of that still lives through his microphone madness, but I feel like he just kind of was like, all right, let me fall back on that and just kind of get everybody to pay attention to the words and what's coming out my mouth. So with Tupac, for sure, he absolutely was that guy.
So you pretty much think the thug image that Tupac had was pretty much him trying to win over guy fans or whatever and overshadow his looks and everything, right?
Well, let's be clear. I'm not going to take away the fact that, he wasn't a sharpshooter. I'm not going to say I've never seen him kill nobody, stab nobody, or anything. Is it in him? I think it's in everybody. Has he been in those circumstances where he's, had to shoot at somebody, whether it's to protect his neck or whether he was robbing somebody? Absolutely sure, to, prove his point. But I think if he could have lived his life just creating and painting the world of colors through his rhymes and his poetry and his acting without having to always buck up and prove himself, I'm sure that would have been the chosen path for him, to just create and to just make people think and wonder and be in awe of everything that lived inside of him, I mean, granted, look where he came from his family in regards to the whole Black Panther movement and all of that stuff. He's filled with a wealth of knowledge from a different perspective that really has all of us thinking all the time or going, damn, I never thought of it that way. And so people are always kind of surprised when he says something so profound, but he's a learned man. He's an educated man, So I do believe that if he didn't have to buck so hard, he would have just really been a true thespian and actor or whatever. But you are a product from where you come from. And this world is not meant to support black women, black men, young kids of, different nationalities. It's we know what world this is made of and what's, who has the upper hand. So everybody has to kind of work much harder to be heard and to be seen, And
yeah,
the
I
industry
agree.
is so different. Yeah.
I definitely agree. Tupac definitely was a shooter. I mean, like, he definitely, if it had to go there, he definitely, would have took it there. It's definitely well documented some of the stuff he did. So,
yeah, I believe he had. You got people who are jealous who don't want you to just be you and do your thing, or they want to see you fall, or they want to be the obstacle in the way, and then you have to prove yourself all the time and buck up, and it's exhausting, But if you don't stand up for yourself, then you get walked on, and he had to stand up for himself.
Absolutely. So I want to take it back a little. Can you give me some of the details and how it was like when you met Tupac for the very first time when he was with Digital Underground?
I'm trying to think, who was I on tour with? I might have been on tour with Heavy D at the time. And I believe we were probably backstage, I want to say at the Greek Theater here in Los Angeles. And we were all like on the same bill. And after I got off stage, he was standing on the sidelines watching. And it was kind of like pretty much how I met everybody in the industry. Like, yo, because of, doing all the backflips and stuff. Yo, you're a beast, man. Yo, you're the shit. Like, whatever. And, he did his thing, so I stayed to watch his show. And then we kind of just like sat in the back on top of like the amplifiers or whatever and just talking and shooting shit and, how everybody got started and stuff. And we didn't really exchange numbers then. It was kind of like we went on our separate ways. And I think it was probably maybe the next a year or so before I saw him again. And it was because we were scheduled to do a Rap City interview at a club in New York. And we were happy to see each other. It was kind of like we picked up where we left off. And we're in the corner in the club, in the cut, to just talking without even the cameras on. I think to other people it might have looked like we were on a date or something, but really we were just refamiliarizing ourselves and catching each other up with life and what's been going on and how his career had changed. And then we did the interview and stuff, and I don't think we still even really exchanged information at that time. It was just because we were always going to, around, Rap City was really all over the place, and we were following behind the West Coast and stuff, so I saw him often, and we just kind of like would connect and be in the cut talking and just meet me at the hotel or meet me at this restaurant, whatever, and it was just kind of like how we flowed. And so all of us would just, meet up and then go back to the crib, hang out, play spades, talk some shit, and it would always be like, 5 of his boys, 3 of my girls, whatever it was. And it really wasn't on no push-up on some date, whatever kind of stuff. It was just really a meeting of the minds and talking creatively and being chill and not feeling like you had to put on any airs or pretension or he had to watch his back. He didn't feel threatened. It wasn't on no groupie shit. It was just really on some respected industry individuals and how can we get to the next level conversations pretty much all the time.
Okay, so give me a story. Like, give me a detailed story of one of the times you and Tupac hung out on just like a everyday, regular day type thing.
Well, we weren't, let's be clear, like he's not somebody that I saw every day or talked to every day of the week or month or even year. You know what I mean? Like he was doing his thing. We were cool and we were homies, but we weren't, I definitely don't have no relationship like him and Jada Pinkett. We were more industry aficionado affiliates rather than, the homeboy that's on speed dial and that kind of thing. So let's be very, very clear about that. So every time we saw each other, it was kind of like happenstance based on the events of what was going on, whether it was a music festival, a music conference, behind the scenes of a, video shoot. We had to show up to kind of shoot. It was always really kind of me having to work and me shooting him while he was working, and then us kind of connecting after work kind of a thing. What you doing tomorrow? All right, meet me here, whatever, and that kind of a thing. So, we weren't homies on speed dial like that.
Okay. So it's a picture floating online of you, Tupac, and another female. I don't want to butcher her first name. I know her last name is Robertson or whatever. But how do you pronounce her first name?
Fatima Robinson.
Yeah, I didn't want to butcher her name. My bad. What's the background behind that picture? Like, where was y'all when y'all took that picture?
We were at a party at the Hollywood Athletic Club in Hollywood. I believe it was I don't even know if it was Aftermath. It might have been I don't know whose party it was, but everybody was there. Like Snoop was there, Dogg Pound was there, like Dre was there that night. Like everybody was hanging out that night. And I don't know if Fatima had already choreographed California Love, but we were all, because we were dancers and always hung around, were just cool with each other. And that night was just a poppin' ass party. There was no beef, there was no drama, it wasn't heavy. East Coast, West Coast love, like for real. Everybody was in that spot that night, and people were actually dancing because folks in LA don't dance, and it was like a nice, sweaty, hot box, which is probably why I look a little greasy in that picture, is because we were all sweating and, fellas doing their two-step and bobbing their heads and that kind of thing. And so, we wanted to dance for a little bit, me and Fatima doing it out, and Pac came up to us, and we just all went into a corner and chilled and was talking. And I know that night we ended up playing a real heavy game of spades all night, which was hilarious. But he was on there was no rah-rah shit happening that night. There was no tough guy madness going on. It was just all love, celebration of, it had to be I don't know whose album release party it was. I don't remember what the event was that night, but I do know there was a whole lot of West Coast people that night. And I know I have a picture with Dre in that same outfit from that night, too. So, everybody was there. But it just kind of transformed into, I believe, Larry Parker's was this 24-hour, eatery in Hollywood, and we kind of went to eat there. It's closed now, but it's, they named all of their food and stuff after famous celebrities or whatever, and that was kind of like the spot. They had 24-hour music videos popping, and, we were chilling back then, I think for us, because everybody was just friends, you don't document it in that way. You kind of remember it in pieces now because he's gone. But we were just kind of like rolling like you do through high school, or you do like, in your college years on campus. You just kind of rolling, and that's your people. And, yeah, we hanging out, on the landing or whatever, and that's just kind of how it is.
Did you have a friendship with Tupac when he joined Death Row? The reason why I asked that is because, some of the people that was cool with Tupac prior to him joining Death Row, I hear a lot of consistent stories when I hear interviews from them, and they say once Tupac joined Death Row, their friendship pretty much dwindled. So, did you have any friendship with Tupac when he joined Death Row?
Yeah, my friendship with Pac never changed, but again, I'm a mutual party, I'm somebody that both sides and any and everybody kind of wants to talk to, because I'm a journalist and I'm part of the media, and anytime somebody needs to say something or has something to say, they would come to BET, they would come to Rap City, they would call me up, try and get on my radio show, and let them have their piece, let them have their say. I'm not part of the beef. So, and my position with whatever he did and whoever he rolled with never changed, and he never changed towards me, But again, we didn't see each other every single day of the week. We didn't talk to each other every single day of the week. But when we see each other, it's nothing but love all day, every day, as if I was a cousin or a family member, and we just catching up. I needed to get into a party or whatever, Tupac would snatch my hand and pull me past the velvet rope, whether he was with Death Row or not. That's the kind of, relationship we had.
Speaking of beef, what was your thoughts on the whole East Coast, West Coast beef?
Well, beef, period, to me always tends to be about two things. And I don't know how crass I can be and you can beat me out, but usually it's either over pussy or it's over money. And maybe even over bragging rights, right? Because everybody's got their testosterone and, we the best, and all that stuff. It was intense. I remember being at that Source Awards, when Suge got on stage and called Puffy out, and you want a manager who ain't trying to be an artist and all that other stuff. I was sitting behind DJ Quick and his crew, and all I know is I remember, and I'm not a shook girl, I'm a New York chick, but I remember looking to see where the exits were because it was thick in the room that night. And I was like, oh no, I don't carry, but listen, if I'm not strapped or protected or with somebody who is, I need to know how to get the hell out of Dodge. And it was really, really, really intense. And because we covered a lot of that stuff, having our conversations with Snoop or with Puffy or with this and with that, it really was a lot about ego and about money and about bragging rights. And then it became about this one sleeping with that one's woman and blah, blah, blah. Men will break out of jail if they think somebody's messing with their woman. Like, people die over women and, all of that stuff. I'm trying not to be so crass. But, hip-hop is all about bravado and ego and territory. And so it's not like it's nothing we haven't seen, but this really kind of turned up into the whole other gangster level that it didn't need to go. And that means because behind the scenes it got extra personal, extra personal. And you just didn't want to be in the crossfire. Even while doing interviews, whether it was the East Coast or West Coast, you kind of wanted to tread carefully because there were people who were sensitive to the questions, who act like whatever question you asked and you're playing devil's advocate that you were taking aside. And it's like, no, I just need your perspective and your point of view. I'm not taking anybody's side, even though I'm a New York East Coast chick. It is what it is, but the beef is yours. It ain't mine, and I don't have to choose, really. I'm not making any money off of Bad Boy Records or Death Row Records. Like, I'm not in this fight,
You being from New York, like, what was the reaction in New York when Tupac dropped Hit 'Em Up?
New York was hot. New York was hot, man. They, everybody was kind of like gearing up like, yo, we got to clap back. Because, New Yorkers ain't no punks, and you got a crew of people who want to clap back on some real gun shit, like, how dare you? And then you got microphone fiends, whether it's Nas or whoever, who want to just be like, we're going to buck up on wax and we coming back at you, because that's really what hip-hop is. So you still have both. See, a lot of times people forget, or people don't realize, it's not the artist who changes or becomes so extra, or let me in the club, don't you know who I am? It's the people around them. It's your homie squad around them that always like, don't you know who the fuck we are? We got Pac with us. We got so-and-so with us causing all the ruckus and the extra and the attitude. And it's never really the artist. The artist is the one usually probably the most quietest in the cut, and it's everybody else who starts feeling themselves that starts to create all the havoc and the mayhem. So a lot of the respected artists in hip-hop were just like, yo, the clapback is easy. Let's get back on the mic, write a killer verse, and let's shut that shit down and show them how, the East Coast represents. And then you got the street cats who was like, fuck that shit. We got to shut them up for real and permanently. And so it was, it was a divided line for those who were like, how dare you even come for us? Don't you know who we are? We created hip-hop. And they felt insulted and that the West Coast was being arrogant. So it just kind of escalated to a place that it did not need to go.
You had a friendship with Biggie, right?
Yeah. And again, my relationship with him is still kind of like on some real cool, but we have a working relationship. I don't call Big and we hang out, and I'm going to Brooklyn and hanging out in, St. Mark's or St. John, like at the brownstone. It wasn't that. We had a respectful working relationship, and Les was always allowed in to what other people aren't allowed into those spaces, into those rooms, and we would have conversations, about him, about his lifestyle, about his wishes, his dreams, but it was business as usual.
That's dope to get your whole point of view of this whole East Coast versus West Coast beef, because at that time you was a part of the media. You was a host for Rap City. So, to get your insight on the whole East Coast versus West Coast beef, I'm learning a lot right now. So, that's dope.
Well, I appreciate that. I think as long as you kind of stay, in the middle, but you still have to do your job, and my job is to ask the questions and seek the answers that people want to hear. But the beef isn't mine, and I think people know that I'm not a messy journalist. I'm not somebody who is trying to, get the gossip and this, that, and the other. Even when I did the R. Kelly and Aaliyah first interview, asking them about are they married and how old are you really and all that other stuff. You have to ask the questions. But it's how you ask it that makes a difference, too, as well as what you ask. There are other journalists and TV and radio personalities who are messy and gossipy and nobody trusts you. And I'm like, here we are in this inner circle of celebrity and entertainment and allowed into spaces after dark that could really break up families and hurt people's feelings and get people killed or cause divorces or whatever. So there are certain things you got to keep close to the vest, not just put it on blast and make up stories or, just try and create kind of scenarios because you want to have a number one radio show or a TV show, As you can see, shit can escalate and get really real, and anytime you as a journalist have to walk around with security because of something you said or that you didn't verify, that's a problem.
Right. So, yeah, man, that's very interesting. Can you give me some details on that whole R. Kelly and Aaliyah interview you did? Like, did you know, like, low-key that they was, like, married, but, you just played the, interview, you just played it out like you didn't know, or, like, what was the details behind that?
Well, I think everybody in the industry knew what was up, but, everybody at Jive Records knew what was up. But that's a cash cow. That's a money machine, and nobody's trying to mess with the business. There are marriages and there are business deals that are in place in this entertainment industry because it is all about the money and the perception and handling business and at the end of the day. So you don't know what kind of contracts, people have or arrangements people have, whether it's Jay and Beyonce, whether it was Janet Jackson and whoever she married or, whatever, like whoever. But in regards to this R. Kelly and Aaliyah situation, yeah, we kind of knew. The paperwork was there, and yeah, everybody knew. Even when we had to do the interviews, there was a powwow with the powers that be at the network about what to ask, what not to ask. We'll do this interview if you give us this many spins, or maybe there was a paper bag of money involved. I don't know, but that's everybody had some payola going on back then too to get rotations, whether it was on radio or video. But yeah, people knew. And all my job was to do was to ask the questions and let them give the answers they wanted to give, right? Because only they know the truth. I know what I think I know, what I believe I know, but I got to ask. That's what my job is for me to ask the questions that the people want the answers to.
Right. When was the last time you seen Tupac?
I saw him the night that he got shot. We were literally driving down the block, and the block got barricaded off from, I guess, the street on which it happened. But at the time, we didn't realize that. They were just redirecting us. And I had seen him in a club that night. But we didn't really kind of get to talk, and I think it was just kind of like a hug, hello, and keep it moving kind of a thing. So I really didn't see him, bond with him, see him that night. But we had an interaction. Ooh, I don't know how I blacked out about that. Yeah.
What was his vibe like when you seen him in the club?
He was his happy-go-lucky self. Happy to be out, happy to get fucked up. You know, ready to get high, get some bitches, do his thing. Like he wasn't angry. It wasn't intense. You know, he had his crew of 50 people as always, so that was no different. There was no tension or whatever that we saw in that moment. It was in turn up mode, and his boys were on. If he was on 10, his boys were on 20. That's always kind of how it is.
If I'm not mistaken, I mean, was that after he had the fight with, the Crips and Orlando Anderson?
Yeah, it was. But I didn't see him in that angry state of mind. And I don't know if I saw him before that fight in a club or after. Because, in Vegas, there's day parties, there's this, there's whatever. So I don't remember the timeline of whether I saw him before that altercation or after that altercation. I know when I saw him, he was in good spirits. There might have been some other stuff going on, but they, were moving to another side of the club, and I was going in the other direction.
Right. Maybe it was before. Did you hear about the fight when it happened? Because you was in Vegas, so do you hear like word of mouth, like what's people going around, like Tupac, Suge Knight, and Death Row got in a fight?
I do remember hearing about it, but it kind of was like no big deal. You forget, I'm like from the Jack the Rapper era, and I remember, when Luke and Snoop and all of them had a fight in the hotel lobby. Like, you just kind of figure some shit is gonna pop off or whatever, and stuff happens. So yeah, I do remember kind of hearing about it, but I don't think it's like, they just stomped this big out. Like, it was kind of like that, and it was like, all right, business as usual. Just don't bring that shit over here. I don't want to have to duck and run in some heels. You know what I mean? It was kind of matter of fact. And it's unfortunate that hip-hop or growing up in the cities that you grew up makes you kind of very like, well, it's just another day at the job or just another day in the hood kind of thing. But that's kind of what it was, I think when it came to Death Row and some shit popping off, though, you were a little bit on guard just because, when you hear Suge's name, you always assume that it's going to be the worst and it's going to be a blowout and it's going to be like, niggas is going to be wild and, all right, let me go put my sneakers on just in case, but I'm still going to hang out and roll to the party. So.
What was your reaction when you heard that Tupac and Suge Knight got shot? Like, prior to it being announced that Tupac passed away, but when it first was announced that they got shot or whatever, what was your reaction?
I think it was just a matter of time before we heard that kind of news. For me, it was personal because Tupac was my friend, so there was devastation behind the fact that he got hit, and you hope that he's okay, and then to hear he's in critical or whatever, you're just like, oh my God, not my friend. I don't think any of us were surprised that it actually happened. I think it was kind of a matter of time just based on how things have been transpiring, over the years. So you don't want to seem so cold or like it's another day at the office, but that wasn't a shocker, and I think most people kind of wished it wasn't Tupac, that it was somebody else who was being blamed for all the change in circumstances and the tension that had been created,
So when he first got shot, you thought he would be okay, right?
Of course. You think he's got 9 lives already. You think he's bulletproof and he's gonna bounce back like it's Pac. He got, his bulletproof vest on and his cape and all that shit is underneath his Carhartts or his whatever he was rocking back then, under his Calcanine, whatever. You think, he's cool, he got bulletproof on, ain't nobody touching him, he's good. So to find out or to hear that it might have been a setup, or from the inside, money changes people, and egos are very hard to control. They make you do wild shit.
Do you think it was a setup?
Yes.
So you think it was a setup, right?
Yes. I also think he had, I believe Pac had a mark on his back, period, just for being who he was, being a voice of a generation, being an influencer, being popular, and taking attention away from other people. Yeah, and I think there was jealousy that ensued, and all of that, or people who thought they deserved a piece of the pie, and yeah, absolutely. Do I believe it was a setup? I do in my heart, yes.
When you say it's a setup, who do you think was involved with the setup? If you could elaborate on that.
You know who I think was involved in the setup. Stop playing. You ain't gonna have niggas coming after me.
Yeah, I ain't gonna, yeah, I know who you is. So we ain't gonna even go there. I already know what it is. So
Right.
yeah, we're gonna keep moving on that one. So you know, that's interesting. You know, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that do believe, you know, that individual is involved, you know, in Tupac murder. So, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but
dynamics changed, you know, and you just when the scenario changed and labels changed, the dynamics changed. And I guess, you know, even though I was closer than most, I wasn't all the way on the inside, but you could actually see the shift, you know. So, and once you have somebody put up money for your bail or whatever the case is, you pretty much have given them your kidney and your firstborn and everything else.
Is it other people in the industry? Because, you know, you've been in the industry for a while, so you have a lot of friends in the industry. Is it other people that think this individual was involved with Tupac murder as well?
Oh, of course.
Okay, that's very interesting, you know, because a lot of people feel that way. There's a lot of people that think that person is involved. So you've been in the industry, you know, that means a lot hearing it from you, you know.
You know, I mean, again, yeah, yeah. I believe everybody kind of believes the same thing, you know. And I'm sure there's so many other factors we don't know about, but from what we have been shown over the years, and that has been like in our face, and yeah, I think everybody's in that same direction. So,
did you ever have any run-ins with that individual? Like, we're not gonna say his name, but we all know who we talking about. But did you?
No,
like
I mean,
him
you can ask me if I've ever. Well, yeah, I've met. That's just funny. I have met Suge Knight before. I've never interviewed him because I can't say really didn't do any interviews with me. I don't know, maybe Joe Claire had interviewed him. I never had to interview him before. And when I did meet him, it was kind of very dismissive. So it was only one time in a club in Miami, and that was it. It was short and really kind of non-existent, and I kind of never been that close to him again. So,
right. I mean, it is facts that he wasn't, you know, paying Tupac all his royalties from All Eyes on Me and stuff. And it is rumored, I don't know if it's 100% true, but it is rumored that Tupac did want to leave Death Row and do his own thing. So it is, you know, a lot of, you know, things that point that way, you know.
Yeah, you know, they say when you're in the mafia or you in the gang, you don't ever get out, right? You don't. You don't ever get out. So I don't know the details of this scenario. We only know what we heard, any of us. He and I never really kind of discussed that. I guess our stuff was really kind of like, I just want to be free to do this. I just want to create this. I got a vision for this film. You know, I got to do this for this album. You know, I talked to him about real dreams and real stuff and not necessarily the political details of the bullshit he was dealing with, you know. I don't know who paid what and how much and how many royalties or what percentage. Like, that was none of my business. That was nothing we ever discussed.
So what was your reaction when it was officially announced that Tupac passed away?
Devastation, disappointment, heartbreak, all of that. Just, you think somebody's lying. Like, you lying. Stop playing. Stop playing. And I'm sure the same people who saw, you know, Martin Luther King's assassination, and not to compare the two, but the feelings and the emotion and the disbelief is the same. And just for having your own point of view or, you know, being the chosen one, that you can't live your life because, you know, other people feel like you're taking their shine away. But, yeah, it was one of the most devastating things to happen in hip-hop, for sure. And for, you know, me to be so personally tied to it, like, it's heartbreaking. Till this day, it's sad. Look at somebody who you know has the potential to just dream and create such memories and iconic pieces and was never given a chance, you know. But that's who he is, and that's what his purpose was in life, you know, was to infiltrate us and leave an imprint on us for decades to come.
Let me rewind this back a little. You know, let me rewind this back. You made a comment earlier. You said something about jealousy. Then you just made another comment saying something about taking Tupac's shine away. So, you know, let's go back to Tupac being on death row. Prior to Tupac being on death row, the hottest artist on death row was Snoop Dogg, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so when Tupac joined death row, you know, he became the hottest artist at the time. He dropped All Eyes on Me. I think he went like 6 times platinum in the first 2 or 3 months of his release. How Do You Want It? Kelly Love was #1 on the Billboard Top 100. So,
right.
You know, it's pretty clear. You would agree that Tupac was the #1 artist on death row, right? When he joined death row, correct?
Absolutely. But I also think Snoop was welcoming of that. I don't think Snoop was jealous about that at all. Snoop is not that dude, really. And Snoop is, you know what I'm saying, kind of help usher Pac into the limelight, into the game, into death row. The same way, you know, with Warren G. Like, Snoop is that dude who's like, there's enough for us to eat and shine, and this is part of the crew, we the team. Like, the way he is with his football team, like, we a team and we moving as one. So if I say that, yeah, there's some jealousy there, Snoop is not somebody that I'm talking about, for sure.
Yeah, but I just wanted to clear that up because a lot of people would assume that it was Snoop. Do you care to mention who you think was jealous of Tupac at that time? Of the shine and everything he was getting?
I just think that there was people in place at death row who wanted to be looked at like the Godfather. And then everybody else was second-tier players. And it kind of just didn't happen like that. I know you want me to kind of say names and stuff, but everybody knows who I'm talking about. I don't have to say it.
Right, I feel you.
I don't have to cause no more drama in my life. Shit.
Yeah, I got you. I feel you. Hey, did you know Kadada Jones?
No, I can't say that I did. I know of her, and we've probably been in the same rooms together, but I don't know her like that. And I don't even think I've had a conversation with her before. So
right.
No.
I was just asking you that because, you know, you is in the industry, you know a lot of people, so I was just wondering, did you have any, you know, friendship with Kadada Jones?
No. Mm-mm.
Hey, what was the last time you seen Biggie alive?
I was actually at that party at the museum the night that he got shot. I had to leave early because I had to take a flight to the East Coast, and so I left the party early. I was on a red eye, and by the time I landed on the East Coast, one of my producers had called me and said that he got shot. And I was like, shut up, stop lying. And he was like, turn on the news. It was really like straight out of a movie. Turn on the news. I'm telling you the truth. Wait, what? So, yeah.
Hey, was Kadada Jones at that party?
I don't remember. Again, she's not somebody I know, so she might have been. I mean, that party was one of those jam-packed, and everybody and their mother was there, and, you know, like reunion and East Coast and West Coast, and, you know, there was a lot of people in the room. She might have been there. It's very, very likely.
Yeah, Quincy Jones threw that party or something, right? He was the one over that party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's footage of Kadada Jones there, you know, and a whole lot of, you know, Tupac fans.
Right, because that might have been the vibe party at that time.
Yeah, that's the vibe party. That's the one I'm talking about, yeah. You know, and a lot of Tupac fans feel the type of way, you know, knowing that Kadada Jones, you know, was at that vibe party after, you know, a few months after Tupac death. You know, that seems a little weird that she would be at his enemy party, you know, dancing and stuff.
Not really, because then again, she's a mutual person too. And unless she saw Biggie pull the trigger, you know what I'm saying? Like, was she not supposed to support her father's magazine? or her father's legacy. Her father's not supposed to put any suspected people on, against Tupac's murder in his magazine or at the party. Like, they're innocent people in all of this. No, why should they have to choose sides? And there's nothing that could be changed about it anyway. It was all, I think. I don't know how much she knew. I don't know what she knows, and we still don't know for sure. But we don't know what kind of relationship that she had with Biggie either. She may have known Biggie, before she knew Pac, and just her and Pac got closer. We don't know what that dynamic is or was. And why should she have to choose?
I mean, hey, I feel you. But I'm just saying, though, Tupac did die, go to his grave, beefing with Biggie and Puffy, so, people, feel a type of way about that. But I feel you, though. You're right. You make some good points.
I mean, I'm sure she had a really dope relationship with Puff for a long time. Like, everybody's been in the industry for years and years and years and years and years, since she was a child or we were all in our teens or whatever, and those dynamics suddenly have to change. I get it, because the person you love may have been killed by somebody who is your friend and should be looked at as an enemy. But if she doesn't have the proof, how can she point the finger, when it's just suspected information, Maybe she knew something about who actually did it or who caused it or whatever, and it wasn't Biggie as she showed up. But again, this is her father's party, and that should supersede anything.
Okay, I got you. Just, wanted to, touch up on that, But,
No, I hear you. I hear it in your voice. You're like, nah, if I think Shorty shot my man, I'm not going. I can hear it in your voice. But, we don't know what she knew or didn't know or believed. That would be a question for her.
Right. Because, despite, people thinking, Biggie had him murdered, because I personally don't think Biggie had him murdered or whatever, but just in general, the whole fact that they had beef, period, is a little weird, Even if you take out, Biggie and Puffy being, suspects of his murder or people thinking they was involved, just the whole fact that, Tupac was beefing with them, period, it's a little, weird for her to be at the party. But you make some good points, though. I feel you. That's definitely...
She can't fight that fight. So...
Yeah, I got you.
Not her responsibility to fight that fight.
Okay. So what's your favorite interview you ever did? Because you did so many interviews with so many legendary and iconic artists. What's your favorite interview you ever did?
Boy, it's tough. I always love talking to artists who I learned something from, who give me perspective. And those tend to be some of the old school artists, like EPMD and Ice-T and DJ Premier. Like, I've had some really good interviews with them where, their feedback is not like, what I'm saying, or just keep it real, where they really give you food for thought. And you're like, oh, I didn't look at it that way. Oh, that's what really happened? Oh, now I understand how the industry changed and people feel a certain way because we didn't know points were spread this way. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the interviews I kind of, cherish the most, where I get insight and information and I learn something when I walk away from it and people actually talk,
Yeah, man. Please tell me, how did it come about you doing the intro, like the beginning of the Living Single, when you're dancing, when the show coming on? How did that come about?
There's Spike Lee used a director and choreographer by the name of Otis Salid. He used him for School Days and for Malcolm X. I actually had worked on the film Malcolm X. I was an extra, and then I had shown up to audition they had some ballroom dance scenes, doing the Lindy Hop and stuff, but I was not late in getting there. I was still in school. I was still working on something, and so by the time I was trying to get in for the audition, they were already on their third and fourth rounds of people. But the directographer, again, Otis Salid, knew who I was or knew of my work. He said, don't worry, we'll work together again. And so when Living Single started to come about, he called me because he wanted a hip-hop dancer to do the open. And he didn't have the job, actually. He didn't get hired, by Fox or whoever to be like, all right, create the opening credits for this. He decided to say, I want to use you so that we can create something that I think will get picked up. So neither one of us had a deal in place. Once he shot it and presented it to them, to the creators and to Fox, they were like, oh, my God, we love it. And so they made us a deal, and that's kind of how it happened.
Okay. Hey, what's your favorite music video you was involved in?
Wow. God, I've done so many music videos. You know, I have to say some of my earlier ones with artists that people may not know. You know, I did a music video for a diva. You remember she's a house music artist back in the day, and it was a music video called It Should Have Been Me. And I actually got hired to be one of the chorus dancers, one of the lead chorus dancers, but they had hired somebody to do like some gymnastics and trampoline, and they were horrible. And the director was getting pissed. And I said, well, I can do it, because they were trying to recreate the scene from the Blues Brothers movie where Jim Belushi did backflips down the aisle. And I was like, I can do it. And the assistant director was like, oh, yeah, Les could do it. But the director was like, no, whatever, because, yeah, I'd never worked with him before, and I can't remember who it was. And the AD was like, no, trust me, she can do it. So I said, just watch. So I ended up doing like 3 or 4 back handsprings down the aisle and a somersault. And he was like, oh, okay. And then I guess the same person they had hired to do was better at trampoline than I was, so they allowed me to bump up in pay and hired me on the spot to do that. But I guess to my resume, one of the best experiences obviously was Remember the Time, because it was my first time working on a studio lot. You know, I found out about the audition on a Thursday, begged my mother to get me some money so I could fly Friday for the audition. Begged her, because I wasn't working then, you know. And she was like, all right, just pay me back, and believed in my dream. And Fatima was choreographing, and everybody from New York flew out the last minute, and we all landed the job because John Singleton knew our body of work. We picked up the choreography, and then next thing you know, we're on this Hollywood set. We're rehearsing for 2 weeks without Michael, and then Michael comes in like a couple of days before shooting, and he does the routine. And it looks completely different than the routine we were doing. Ours was real conservative and, you know, just on point. His was funky and fly and on some other shit. And we had to kind of like relearn it a little bit because he was killing it, you know. And they had given us a contract like 300 pages long, it seemed. Don't look at him, don't talk to him, don't ask me questions, blah, blah, blah. But Michael came in and he talked to us more than anything, you know. So I guess they had to do that to protect themselves because of all the people coming at him for accusations of this or trying to get the money or whatever it was. But he was cool. He'd curse around us, you know, in his little voice and be like, fuck that man, you know. But it was dope. That was one of the best. That and I'm Every Woman with Whitney Houston. You know, I had spent most of my time with her because I was dancing for Bobby. So through her whole pregnancy, and we were at the wedding and stuff, you know, I was one of Bobby's dancers for a long time. But doing that video was just, she was in her glory. She was beautiful being pregnant. Shaka showed up on the set. You know, all of us had choreographed, and we were all just, it was dope. That was really, really dope, too. So, and then my early Mary J. stuff, I have to say, because Puffy had called on me to just be like, yo, Les, I need some rough, rugged, and raw, some street shit, some New York City, rough girl, tough girl, whatever. I need you to hook it up. And then Mary and I became like sisters, you know, and it was during a time where you hear your song on the radio in heavy rotation, but you're not getting the money, you're still living in the projects, you can't understand why, you know, and we kind of had that bond there because our careers were starting really at the same time, and we're doing so much, but how come we're not reaping the benefits yet? And you got people stealing from you. You got to watch your back and stuff. So those are memorable moments and experiences for me.
Wow, man. You got a story for days, man. You've been involved with so many iconic artists, man. You know what I mean? It's crazy, man.
It's been a blessing, and I guess you kind of, like when you're in it, you don't look at it like that. You know, I'm a club kid from New York City, and so was Wyclef. So was Lauryn Hill, you know. LL would be on open mic comp. You know what I'm saying? Like, we see all these people because that's kind of how New York City roll. And you just kind of like, you're in the cypher, you're in the circle, in the dance battle or whatever, late night, the club, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., meeting in the park, backpack kids. Like, everybody's just trying to get in, get on, and blow up. And you never realize that even this is where you hope to aspire to be, selling out stadiums and all, you don't see it for yourself back then, and that's the bond that you have, Wyclef and I did this off-Broadway play for a long time. It was like a remake of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night that was turned into a hip-hop version, and he wrote all the music and stuff for it, and that's where I got my first dance gig, dancing for an artist, Jay Williams, because Atlantic Records decided to, put some money behind the play. Like, you just don't see how things happen. But we all, and I'm sure Denzel and Samuel L. Jackson and all of them have those same kind of stories from, when they were in Harlem at their acting theater and all. You know what I mean? You just kind of don't know, and it's great to see when people rise together or that dreams are coming true amongst each other. So.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, was you involved with the Kelly Love video, or was that your friend? Because I know she was involved.
That was just Fatima.
Yeah. I don't know why I can't get her first name right, man. That's the reason why I didn't even attempt to say it this time.
Fatima.
Fatima. Okay, cool. So, yeah, man, this was a incredible interview, man. It was such an honor.
Well, I appreciate it. You maybe had to remind myself. I had to think of timelines and stuff. I was like, wait, what? Oh, yeah. Oh, But thank you. I appreciate that. All good memories. It's been a blessing. I just hope to create more memories. That's all. Trying to create more memories and more projects, and still considered to be a culture creator of the new day. So. That's all.
Yes, indeed. So before we end this interview, I want to ask you two more questions. What is your favorite Tupac album, and what is your favorite Tupac song?
All Eyes on Me. God, what song? I know when Brenda Had a Baby came out, it kind of reminded me of when LL did I Need Love. When all these, when Ed O.G. and the Bud Dogs did Be a Father to Your Child, like, you saw men kind of like standing up, being vulnerable, being responsible, and that affected me in a way that I appreciated him showing that side of him to the public. And I'm not saying, like, that's the dopest Tupac song ever, you know what I mean? But that was one that kind of resonated with me, in a way that made me, like, proud to be his friend, proud to see him, like, step outside and not be on some rah-rah shit, but, like, on some real man responsibility. I recognize what's going on in our neighborhoods and kind of things. So that's how I feel about that record.
Okay. All Eyes on Me, definitely one of my favorite Tupac albums. Mm-hmm. And Brenda's Got a Baby is one of my favorite Tupac songs. Good choice. So, before we end the interview, is there anything you want to shout out, or any of your, future projects that you're involved in? Anything you want to, mention?
Just keep looking out for me to kind of like, move Carson Daly and Ryan Seacrest over, not out the way, because there's room for all of us, and let me get these deals, whether it's a hip-hop game show, whether it's my dance documentary. You guys can keep following me on social media, Instagram, Twitter. I am Leslie Segar, LESLIESEGAR. Big Les on Facebook. My personal is, at your girl Les, but I keep that, on the personal, but it is what it is. It's all to share. It's all public. So just keep following me. I'll be hitting you up with the good news. And, you never talk about anything, or I never talk about anything until three things happen. The ink is dry, the check clears, and I actually see it on TV. Then I know it's official. You can't get excited in this business because things fall apart at the last second. There's nothing you can do about it. So.
Hey, I'm down, man. I'm definitely available, man. Anytime you want to do an interview. Hopefully this is not our last interview, man. I honestly enjoyed this interview.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out to me and including me in, Tupac's legacy, and think enough about me as a person of hip-hop to want to interview me. So I wish you the best, too. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much, and I'll definitely leave a link to all your social media accounts as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Leslie Segar. I'm doing these web series called Gatekeepers. I just started. First one's with Leah Daniels Butler, casting director, and it's really just kind of highlighting people who are like the Wizard of Oz. They have the key to your dreams. They have the power to say yay or nay. So I'm just trying to work on that for now.
Absolutely. I'll definitely leave a link to your YouTube channel as well. So
Thanks, love.
so with that being said, we out. Deuces.
All right, honey. Take it easy.